So, right, okay, so back on the dub techno thing. So, right, okay, anyone, let's just do a bit of a Beardy Man type thing here. And so, somebody shout out just a random artist or a random track that you wouldn't expect to make a dub techno track from. And we'll take a bit of a weird sample off YouTube and try and turn it into something. So, yeah, first suggestion gets done. Making techno, speaking good sense there, yeah. Sample a chord and then mess around with it with filters and delays, totally. I'm still waiting for a suggestion on this, something weird to sample. Busted or Beatles? I would far sooner have done Busted than the Beatles, but I did say first one gets used, so... Right, okay, in fact, you know, I'm going to do the Beatles because I can't bring myself to listen to Busted. Right, okay, I'm back. So, I literally did a sort of spun my mouse around, picked a random Beatles track off Spotify, which was I'm Only Sleeping, and I've saved a little chunk of it here, so I'm going to put that in. Producertech. Stream. Beatles. I realise this is not entertaining for a second, but I'm back in Ableton Live now, so let me switch back onto that. Okay, so, don't know how well this one's going to work, but let's, it's part of the fun, isn't it? So let's go in here and drop that sample in. Okay, so this is what I grabbed out of, it was literally just the opening bit from a randomly chosen track. So let's just take a little hit. Maybe. Okay, that's kind of got a little bit more interesting. Kind of works. I mean, probably could have found a better sample, but the yeah, basically point is find an interesting sample with some texture to it, and then just play those sort of simple one-note patterns and play around with reverbs and delays. So I'm just gonna have a little bit more of a fiddle with this for a minute because it sounds quite interesting. So it's sounding quite interesting actually. So what we could do now actually is maybe revisit the Let's see what we're saying actually. An envelope follower, yeah, would sound really cool. Cesar Moreira, that's yeah, I totally agree. Envelope follower would be cool. Although I think because the sound itself is quite doesn't have much dynamics to it. You know, it's kind of a little you know, it's quite a block of sound. It hasn't got much dynamic to it. There's probably some more interesting ways we can make that evolve, and this actually links nicely back into the question from earlier on, which was about when we spoke about automation and how to make things evolve and morph over the course of a track or over the course of a set or whatever. Was the sort of option of random. So let's kind of revisit that now, actually, because that ties in quite well. So let's drop an EQ8 on here, because in fact, let's do it with auto filter. But let's have we want both a low pass and a high pass. So it gets a bandpass effect, as was just mentioned, but we want it to be sort of a variable bandpass. So let's set 2 different auto filters up. One as a low and one as a high. So we could put some sort of random LFO on this, but actually what can sound a bit less weird but still unpredictable is to put LFOs on that are just not tempo synced. You know, so they're not random as such. They are running, but they're just not running in time with the track. Autofilter does have a built-in LFO, so we could use that, but I'm actually going to use the Max for Live LFO just because it's easy to visualize what's going on. And this shows how you could use it on other things as well. You could use it on like an EQ peak on EQ8, for example. So let's go into Max for Live, audio effects, LFO. And I'm going to set this. The mapping works just like macros, so you hit map, hit where you want the map. So now we've got a really schizophrenic high pass filter. So we want to bring the rate down, bring the depth down, and probably the offset a little bit as well. So we get that kind of classic LFO, you know, auto wah, sort of up and down type thing going on, but it's not in times because I've set the time here to 0.68 hertz. So it's not tempo synced. So it's, you know, it's doing a repeatable pattern, but it's not in time with the track. So I'm now going to do the same thing again with the low pass, but set it to a different non-synced time. So you can hear they're actually at similar speeds, like 0.68 hertz and 0.98 hertz. So not a million miles away. You know, they're both fairly slow LFOs. But because, I mean, you can see here that they're just sort of drifting in and out of phase, which gives you this really cool, you know, sort of, it feels quite unpredictable, even though it's not that random really. And then that just sort of gradually moves. It's not in time with the beat, you know, so the start of every bar, the filters will be in a slightly different position. So quite quickly, you can make something that sounds quite random and quite, you know, quite organic without really doing that much.